The numbers are finally out, and they are absolutely brutal. A leaked internal assessment has reportedly confirmed what we all suspected. Lance Stroll isn't just slower than Fernando Alonso. He is statistically the single biggest liability preventing Aston Martin from fighting for the 2026 World Championship. It is January 12th, 2026, and the Formula One world is holding its breath. We are less than a month away from the launch of the AMR 26 on February 9th, the first car fully influenced by the legendary Adrian Newey. The hype is suffocating. Honda has officially arrived as the works engine partner and brought their championship-winning pedigree from Red Bull. The new Silverstone wind tunnel is fully operational. On paper, Aston Martin has every single ingredient required to dominate this new era of regulations. However, there is a massive problem sitting in the second cockpit. For years, the Stroll enigma has been dismissed as just internet hate or jealousy. But recent developments have shifted the narrative from speculation to crisis. Following a 2025 season where Lance was reportedly out-qualified by Alonso at almost every single Grand Prix, the pressure has reached a boiling point. Reports suggest that Honda executives and the new minority shareholders are demanding answers. They aren't interested in family dynamics because they only care about data. The figures being discussed behind closed doors at Silverstone paint a devastating picture of the gap between a pay driver and a world champion. The cold, hard facts triggered this emergency. The 2025 season was supposed to be the step forward, but for the second car it was a total stagnation. According to end-of-year analysis, Lance Stroll finished the season with an average qualifying position of 16.2. In a car that Fernando Alonso dragged into Q3 in the top 10 consistently, Lance was routinely getting knocked out in Q1. The head-to-head record was a massacre rather than a simple defeat. We are talking about a near-total shutout in qualifying, and a points disparity that cost the team millions in the Constructors' Championship. This goes beyond being a number 2 driver. In the data-driven business of F1, a gap of 6 to 8 tenths per lap is unacceptable, especially when you have championship aspirations. The telemetry shows exactly where the time is lost in braking zones, corner entry speeds, and tire management. When you overlay Lance's traces against Fernando's, the deficit is glaringly obvious to everyone, including the new engineers who just arrived from winning teams. The Adrian Newey factor complicates things further. The genius designer didn't leave Red Bull to fight for 7th place. He joined Aston Martin to win his final masterpiece title. Newey is famous for his intolerance of anything that compromises performance. He builds cars that operate on a knife edge and require precise, elite inputs to extract maximum lap time. If one driver can handle that sensitivity and the other cannot, it creates a development nightmare. Because you can't build 2 different cars. If Newey pushes the AMR 26 concept to the extreme, relying on a driver who can't extract that performance renders the car's potential useless. Rumors from the factory suggest that the design team is frustrated. They need consistent feedback from both cars to correlate their wind tunnel data. When the variance between drivers is this erratic, it corrupts the development path. Newey's arrival was celebrated as the final piece of the puzzle, but his presence has inadvertently shown a massive spotlight on the driver lineup. He needs 2 gunners rather than 1 gladiator and 1 passenger. If you are finding this breakdown of the Aston Martin crisis interesting, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We are tracking every development in the 2026 driver market, and you won't want to miss what comes next. The Honda ultimatum brings us to the next critical point. Honda's involvement changes everything, because this is a full works partnership rather than a customer engine deal like they had with Mercedes. Honda has explicitly stated they will have a say in the driver lineup. They didn't come back to F1 to power a midfield vanity project. History tells us that Honda is ruthless, as seen in how they pressured Red Bull to promote Yuki Tsunoda through the ranks. Japanese corporate culture values honor and results above all else. They are pouring hundreds of millions into the 2026 power unit, and they expect a return on that investment. Reports indicate that high-ranking Honda officials have already expressed concern over the wasted seat. They want a Japanese driver, or at least a world-class talent, maximizing their engine's potential. Lance Stroll's guaranteed seat is an anomaly that Honda likely views as a strategic weakness. The friction between Lawrence Stroll's paternal protection and Honda's corporate ambition is the defining conflict of this preseason. Money talks, and right now, the financial pressure is immense. While Lawrence Stroll is a billionaire, he isn't the only one paying the bills anymore. Aston Martin and Honda sold a significant stake in the F1 team last year to raise liquidity. This brought in new investment partners, private equity firms, and shareholders who treat this as a business rather than a family hobby. These people look at spreadsheets instead of bloodlines. They see the prize money difference between finishing third and fifth in the Constructors' Championship, which represents a swing of tens of millions of dollars. When they see a driver costing them that difference year after year, they start asking difficult questions. The team's valuation has skyrocketed, but they need on-track success to maintain that growth. Lance is no longer just costing his dad money, since he is now costing external investors their returns. The unfireable son is suddenly facing pressure from boardrooms that his father doesn't fully control. Whispers of a shareholder revolt point to the scenario Lawrence Stroll feared most. For years, his total ownership meant total control. But bringing in partners like Arctos and increasing the team's valuation to over $1 billion has diluted his absolute power. Sources suggest that during the end-of-year board meetings in December, the topic of driver efficacy was formally raised. It wasn't framed as a personal attack on Lance, but as a risk management issue. If Fernando Alonso decides to retire or leaves at the end of 2026, and the team is left with Lance as the team leader, the stock value could plummet. They need a succession plan that involves elite talent. The exposed data regarding Lance's inability to match the car's development curve has given these shareholders the ammunition they need. They are reportedly pushing for a performance clause that could override the lifetime contract implied by his last name. Rival drivers are already circling the seat. With the 2026 regulations resetting the grid, every top driver wants a seat in a Newey-designed Honda-powered car. The market is unstable. You have drivers like Yuki Tsunoda, who has Honda's backing and has matured into an incredibly fast racer. Then there are the wild cards. Rumors have linked Carlos Sainz, Alex Albon, and even ambitious rookies to the seat. Agents are calling Silverstone every day because they know the Aston Martin seat is potentially a championship-winning ride. If the team were to open up that second cockpit, they could have their pick of the grid. This reality must be terrifying for Lance. For the first time, he isn't competing against a lack of options because he is blocking the path of potential world champions who are desperate to get in. The comparison is no longer just against Alonso, but against the hypothetical performance of a Sainz or a Tsunoda in that same car. This situation centers on Lawrence Stroll. He built this entire empire for his son by buying Prima, buying Williams via funding, buying Force India, and finally buying Aston Martin. It was all for Lance, but now he faces the most painful decision of his life. To make Aston Martin a true world champion, he might have to sacrifice the very reason he bought the team in the first place. It is a high-stakes family drama playing out at 200 miles per hour. If he keeps Lance, he risks losing Newey, losing Honda's trust, and watching his billion-dollar investment stagnate in the midfield. If he fires Lance, he admits that the entire project's original goal has failed. Those close to the situation say Lawrence is torn. He is a ruthless businessman, but he is also a father. The exposed data has forced him to look at his son not as a prodigy, but as an asset with a declining ROI. The upcoming AMR 26 launch acts as a referendum on his leadership, rather than just a car reveal. Everything changes on February 9th. When the covers come off the AMR 26, the world will see Adrian Newey's vision. But all eyes will be on the drivers standing next to it. If Lance Stroll is still there smiling as if nothing is wrong, it will be a statement of defiance against the data, the shareholders, and common sense. The first few races of 2026 will be the final test. With the field reset, if the car is a rocket ship and Lance is qualifying 12th while Alonso is on pole, the excuse of learning the car won't work. The 2026 regulations have removed the old excuses since everyone is starting from zero. If the data gap persists in the first flyaway races, the noise will become deafening. We might see a mid-season swap. Aston Martin has a deep reserve bench, and with Honda watching, they won't hesitate to replace him if the Constructors' Championship is at risk. The launch is just the start of the most scrutinized season of Lance Stroll's career. This signals a shift for the future of Formula One. We are witnessing the collision of the old pay driver model with the new, hyper-efficient franchise model of the sport. In the past, teams needed money, so they took the driver with the biggest check. Today, with the budget cap and massive team valuations, prize money and brand prestige are worth far more than any family fortune. If Aston Martin drops Lance Stroll, it signals the end of the pay driver era. It proves that even owning the team isn't enough to secure a seat if you can't deliver on the stopwatch. If they keep him and fail, it serves as a warning that money cannot buy championships without merit. The 2026 season is going to define the legacy of the Stroll family. They will either be remembered as the visionaries who built a juggernaut or the cautionary tale of a father who couldn't say no to his son. The data is out, the world is watching, and for the first time the seat feels truly unsafe. The AMR 26 is coming, and with it comes the moment of truth for Lance Stroll. He must decide if he can defy the data or if his time is finally up. Thanks for watching. If you want to stay ahead of every twist in this F1 saga, hit that subscribe button right now.